Hey, welcome back. It's Blunt in the Bedroom. I am Patty and I'm here with Aurelie. And we have an interesting quandary for ourselves today because we think that we disagree on something, or at least, I'm going to say at least big nuances of the topic.
Yeah.
So, we want to talk about efforts at de-extinction, in particular ones around bringing back the woolly mammoth. Let's see, it was the mammoth steppe in Siberia, I think. And the idea is to reintroduce these mammoths uh, into Pleistocene Park up in Siberia. So we have an intro video, right? To
Oh,
share.
yes. Yep.
Okay. Then we'll get into
Mammoths are coming out of extinction. A company known as Colossal Biosciences has started this project to revive the woolly mammoth. What they're doing is they're taking altered genomes and they're putting them into Indian elephants. And in 4 to 6 years, when these elephants have babies, they should give birth to the first mammoths. The idea is to take the mammoths and put them into the tundra. And supposedly, this should clear the ice layers from the tundra, turning it from a wetland into a dry grassland. This would cause the tundra areas to be able to hold carbon more and reflect sunlight, therefore cooling down the planet and reverse global warming. What's your thoughts? Mammoths are coming.
So that's the part where I thought he was misinformed, or maybe I'm misunderstanding something. When he was saying that, oh, by the way, that's let me see, what was the name of that channel? Because I don't know if we're supposed to like cite that kind of thing. Do you know?
Oh, yeah, probably actually. Good call.
Yeah, let me just go back to it real quick.
Although I say YouTube, people sometimes not link to the source material.
Okay. I mean, we're not making money off this anyway, so I'm just gonna continue. But it's something odd Danny, some totally odd Danny or something like that. But anyway, what I thought didn't make sense was when he was saying about the melting ice, like turning it from what it is now to grassland would help reflect sun. That didn't make sense to me because sun's reflected with ice. So I'm not sure if that part of it makes sense, but I think this is unnatural and we need to stop fucking around with science. And I think that watching Jurassic Park and Rampage and Planet of the Apes has taught us that we need to stop messing around with shit that we shouldn't be messing around with.
All right. I think we will discover that I am much more open to this. Okay, so I tried to go down a rabbit hole of the helping the planet part, and there was a whole lot. There was like a 20-minute documentary. Okay, so is that a rabbit hole? Maybe not. I don't know. So I guess I was trying to see what they're really talking about. And there is something to the whole grassland thing, because I think that's where the grassland can grow above the permafrost. And then when it dies and is like buried and like pushed down into the permafrost layers or something like that, that's where it locks up more carbon, because that grass just keeps like either getting eaten or put down in there, versus something else. I don't know. That's as far as I got with my understanding. So, but that was the scientific part, the more documentary thing, because I think we can agree that probably, what did you say his name was? Totally Odd Todd? No.
Something Odd Danny.
Odd Danny. Yeah, totally Odd Danny or whatever. I mean, clearly he shouldn't be our last stop for what we learn about this, but it's good that he talked about it, because it seemed preposterous. But then when we looked into it, I was like, oh, no, I mean, this is actually happening. And, people who know things about climate science stuff are saying they want to do this for a permafrost reason.
Yeah,
so
well,
I don't know.
That the other guy, the video that you sent me, the longer one, I thought he explained the climate part more to where I could understand it. Because again, what this other first person was saying might make total sense, and I just didn't understand it right. But this other guy, he explained it more of like them walking on the snow compacts it more. So it's not like replacing snow, because to me that makes more sense, because it's is it not albedo? Is it albedo or whatever
Yeah.
the thing that the light reflects back out?
Yeah.
Whereas when it's a darker surface like grass, it gets absorbed, so heat gets trapped more because of the greenhouse effect. So yeah, so the way that the other guy explained it made more sense to me
Yeah.
for that part. But I still feel like we should just fix climate change at the source instead of keep trying to put stuff over and fix it from the top. I don't think that's the best way.
It's okay. So it's interesting that you say it that way, because I was thinking about how kind of cool it was that, yeah, cool. That that scientists had this notion, instead of like, hey, let's build this fucking big machine that sucks carbon out. Like, I don't know that that's terrible that we can do those things, but I was like, actually, how cool is this that we recognize this huge service to the planet that this species used to provide. And I am not on team human overpredation. I am not on that team for how we lost all the mammoths. We could debate that one too. That would be interesting. But but so like for us to recognize that this species that used to live here doesn't live here anymore, for whatever reason it doesn't live here anymore, serves such a purpose to keep this really important biome churning, right, and doing its job and keeping carbon locked up to, like, you know, and whatever else that type of grassland biome provides, and to recognize that by using technology we have now to recreate that species, and then, you know, or it'd be a new species really, right, because it's a human hybridization of but like we already have humanified the whole planet basically, right? Maybe not Antarctica, you know, there's places, but most places there's nowhere where it's just like, oh well, that's in the wilds. Like, that doesn't exist. There's so little of that that's in the wilds, right? So much of the planet's remaining populations of the diverse species are only in countries' wildlife preserves. And I think somehow we have this idea that there's still a big wilds somewhere. But since there isn't, our future with animals is, I don't see how it cannot be things like this, where we reintroduce and start figuring out genetics that like create you know, balanced biomes that we can then build. Because if we've humanified sounds like I'm saying humidified, if we've like taken over the whole planet and just decided we're mostly in charge of it, I mean, yeah, we're gonna have to adapt to whatever climate change is doing now. But like, I just think we're gonna end up doing this, where we create these animals and put them into these biomes that we're trying to restore things in, or like preserve in. I don't know. I'm for it. I'm like weirdly balls to the walls, just like, let's go into the future. Like, I am so mad I will not see most of it.
There's no way for us to know what the future holds. What if we do this and it creates a super species that it is smarter than us and is at the end of everything? Like, what if this thing ends up, you know, walking around the tundra and eats a disease that ends up taking us all out, you know, because now it's in a mammal. And I don't know. I feel like there's too many unknowns for us to feel comfortable messing around with science like this.
But all of them ended us dying.
I mean, yeah.
So like, and
honestly, that's not even the worst
too.
That's not even the worst part for me though, because I actually do kind of feel like humans are super cancerous, parasitic species, and we just like, if we go away, the earth is better off. But before that happens, it's gonna have to take out a lot of other things. Like, is gonna have, like, it might starve us out, for example. Just this thing could go crazy and start eating all the plants on the planet. It can like evolve somehow to the point where it's just like reproducing every 2 years, and then next thing you know, we're overrun with giant woolly mammoths that eat every tree and plant, and then we're all dead. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I may be going down a little bit of a panic spiral. I'm feeling it now as I'm like hearing myself.
Oh, good. I guess my question would be, can you think of any means by which we would stop a woolly mammoth invasion?
Yes, I did think about this. You know how it's going to happen? Because they're going to start populating. This was going to happen. There's not any predators that can take out a woolly mammoth, except maybe humans, maybe. But then, you know what they're going to do? Well, now let's bring back the saber-toothed tiger. And then we have that problem.
Well, okay, so ding, 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 not the saber-toothed tiger, but the Tasmanian tiger, the thylacinamide, yeah, the Tasmanian tiger. We have video of it, the last living one, because it died out in like 13, something like that. And so we actually have pretty good DNA, and they're talking about bringing that one back. But humans have lived with it really recently. So like 100-year gap is like a blip. Like future, unless they find our scientific records and stuff, well, okay, they could probably figure that stuff out by then. But anyway, but like, you know, if it was fossils of Tasmanian tiger and Tasmanian tiger 200 years apart, like literally no one would think anything of it in the future, right? So that one bothers me so little.
What? See?
I mean, I love it.
I see that different. I see that as maybe there's a reason our ancestors took them out. And they would be looking at us like,
which things?
Really?
Which things did our ancestors take out?
The Tasmanian thing.
Oh, I forget why that one happened. It's sad.
Probably because they were killing a lot of people. Or
something. Oh, they were probably killing livestock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, which I'm not saying that it was okay for our ancestors to have done that, but also, can you just imagine you're doing a thing like, let's say 100 years from now, we're looking down at our descendants and they are like, oh, Delta variant coronavirus. This didn't seem super bad. Let's see what happens if we inject it into a mouse. And we're gonna be sitting there like, for real? You didn't learn nothing from our experience? Am I making sense?
I mean, I have thoughts about coronaviruses and mice, so I don't know.
Don't even tell me you want to do that. Oh my gosh.
No.
Oh. Okay. We should stick to the notes.
Oh my God. So funny. Okay.
Okay. So one thing that I wonder is, did they come up with the idea to resurrect the woolly mammoth, you know, and possibly other species, and then decide, okay, we want to do this. People are going to freak out about this. So let's find a good reason to give it so that people will be okay with it and tolerate it and like not fight us on it. So did that, like, what is that how it happened? Because if that's the case, then maybe it was very targeted research on the validity of it.
Maybe. I mean, I think though that this Pleistocene Park thing has been going a while because they've been introducing species that were like really similar to or were once in the area, and they just like reintroduced and like fostered populations of them. So the way it was explained, okay, yes, it was totally, you know, it potentially biased little 20-minute documentary about the whole thing. But they were sort of making like the build up to the woolly mammoth seem like this natural progression of like introducing like each piece of the biome to fill different niches. So I don't know. I mean, how you feel about it underneath has got to impact how, you know, each of these bits of information about it are received, right? Because we're both going to run it through how we already kind of felt about it. Like, because I want to be accepting of it and be like, fuck yeah, let's do some cool shit with animals instead of like mining and machines. That makes me happy.
Aren't you also pro or for the lab grown meat?
Yeah, I'd be down. We figured that shit out. Let's do it. It would make one of my kids actually eat me because she hates all the gristly weird bits, and that's the part you get rid of if there ain't no body attached to it.
I cannot see myself ever, like, I don't even like to eat processed stuff. Like, I don't know. I'd rather eat the invertebrates. I think that's the direction we should actually head. Is because those are so easy to just, you feed them in a bin in your garage, and so I don't know.
Yeah, I could be down for that one too. I'd eat bugs. I have eaten bugs.
You have?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've eaten shrimp, so I guess, yeah.
Well, I mean, I've eaten cricket cookies and stuff like that.
Yeah, shrimp is the only. Well, I guess crabs are also invertebrates, right? I've eaten that as well. I've eaten ocean. I've eaten marine bugs.
Yeah.
Marine invertebrates. Not land. Something about it is just not something that I can easily do. Okay, we are tangenting.
I know, it's all good. It's how we do. Yeah. Well, the company that's doing it and they're hoping to bring back the woolly mammoth is, what was it, Colossal? It said Colossal Biosciences. Yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of curious about the relationship between Colossal Biosciences and how they're connected to this Pleistocene park. And I'm curious who's doing the Pleistocene park. Like, are we talking this was a multimillionaire in the 60s that had a wild hair to do this? I didn't look into that, so maybe that's my bad.
I don't know. I just can't understand how people can ignore all the movies. Like, I know that it's fiction.
Yeah.
But the way that they, like, the things that they explain make sense of how horribly things could go.
Yeah. Okay, can I posit some ideas out that just popped into my head? Okay, so, humans learn by having shit go wrong, which sucks, right? Like, we learned about arsenic in green dye. Arsenic in green dye? I think that's right. By people like losing their hair, going crazy on weird shit. And lead, obviously, we are still learning our lessons on that after Rome started birthing ogres. Right? So, like, we've learned things really the hard way. All of the terrible warnings on things about what not to do with our electrical objects, plastic bags, etc., etc. That shit hurts because that stuff was learned the hard way. And I almost have this thought in my head that, like, our fiction and our movies that are depicting terrible outcomes of things that, like, these haven't happened, right? But I almost feel like it's us recognizing that, like, oh, hey, right? It's like the reverse. Like, we realize how sad and terrible things have been. So, like, hey, let's warn about this because either it'll warn you away from doing it, or it could serve as a, like, hey, everyone, just remember, we've had really bad shit happen to us as we learned things the hard way along the way. So maybe we're smart enough now to think about them ahead of time and try to head off a bunch of them at the pass. And I actually think we could do that a lot better if it wasn't for the fact that everything we do right now has to be profit driven. It's fucking us over from top to bottom.
Yeah.
What could we do if we weren't behind that corrupts everything? Because if we could decide to do that when money wasn't the goal and bring back woolly mammoths, like had an actual purpose and no one was going to profit off of it, whether we did it or we didn't, how could I argue with it if the data was there? But when there's money involved, we have to question even the data.
That's true.
Bastards.
That is very true.
About these honorable notions of science, and then they shit on it by making
honestly,
money.
If it wasn't profit driven, we wouldn't even be in the situation that we're in now, where this is even a conversation that we need to do something about the permafrost. You know, like
I agree.
Have gotten to this point, like, you know, like we wouldn't feel like we needed to keep building more and expanding more and you know, constantly growing and polluting and stuff, and you know, modernizing.
Yeah. And I guess I don't know enough about economic things to hold capitalism's feet to the fire in a real, tangible way. But how we're doing capitalism is at least the wrong way to do capitalism.
Yeah.
Whether capitalism is always wrong, because what we have is corruptible and corrupted.
Yeah.
And it is not of, by, and for the people as it should be.
Definitely not. None of the developed world countries, none of the Western countries, I think is how they say that, are this bad. Right. So I'm gonna play another video. This is definitely a tangent. But this woman was hold on, because you
I don't think anything will radicalize you quicker than being an American mother, because you go from it's like living your best life, brunch, mimosas, fun with your friends, to having to navigate every American system that's failing. You get pregnant, and then all of a sudden you're like, ooh, no options here in this progressive country. And then you're like, okay, well, let me navigate the healthcare system. Oh, fucking disaster. Okay, well, at least I have the baby. Maternity leave, fucking disaster. Postpartum care, disaster. Childcare, disaster. Public school, also a fucking disaster. You realize it's all broken, everything, and it's kind of broken on purpose. The more you look at it, the more you're like, oh, it's designed to function this way to keep me miserable and separated and too busy to think about how broken it all is. And eventually you find ways to kill and they will give you a pill to fix it faster than you can even realize that depression and anxiety is actually a really appropriate reaction to the conditions that we've been forced to endure. That's good work. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Whereas the politician saying that, I will vote for them. Can she run? I would vote for them or them. I would vote for them.
Yeah.
Are you shitting me? I would vote for them. That's everything right there.
Yep, it's the thing that more and more people are realizing. And it's true. I didn't think about any of these things before. I mean, even whenever my kid was born, I was in the military, which is surprisingly socialist. Weirdly, ironically socialist. Like, there is subsidized childcare. You pay according to how much you make for childcare, and it works. There is healthcare. There's postpartum care. There's paid maternity and paternity leave. The fathers don't get as much time as the mothers get, but when I was in, it was 10 days. This was not your vacation time. This was paternity leave. It was totally separate. Maternity leave was 6 weeks at the time. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's changed at all, but so you get that stuff. You get the nurse coming to your house, like in some Asian countries, they come to your house every day for like the first amount of time, and then it's like every week after to come and like make sure the baby's gaining weight and all these things, and like all these things are happening in there. And so it's not like this country doesn't believe in it. They just don't care about it. I don't know. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Again, this is a tangent. What was the original topic? We're talking about de-extinction and we got
I mean, let's be real. Which class is looking to extinct any other class? And it's time for us to de-extinct ourselves. Okay, that made no sense. We can cut that out.
I see. I saw where you were trying to go.
I don't know if I knew where I was going or what I was meaning or if it was weird. Okay.
Okay. So I did want to talk about these movies though.
Okay, let's talk about the movies.
Okay. Have you seen Rampage? Did we talk about this already?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Okay. So in this movie, they're doing these experiments in space because it's like illegal to do it here because of the ethical, ways it could be used as a war chemical or whatever. But fucking around with mixing up all kinds of DNA from many different species. I think including extinct ones too. I don't know, but a lot of species, they mix it all together to create this like invincible creature, right? So they do it in space because again, they can't do it here because of the ways that can be used to go horribly wrong. As they're bringing in the results or whatever, a rat that they were testing in space turned into this thing that killed everything. And anyway, somehow the virus, or not the virus, the what you call it, the concoction made its way, like crashed down to Earth, and it was eaten by a gorilla, or absorbed or whatever by a gorilla, a crocodile, and a wolf. I think are the only 3 animals. And these destroyed the city, and like just they couldn't be killed. They were really aggressive because one of the DNAs of something that they fucked with was an aggressive species, and they couldn't be killed because they had these like DNA of like a lizard or a rat or some shit that like heals itself. It just all these crazy things. It was like bulletproof because whatever species, like turtle or whatever, like all these things, they could fly. They could fly because they had like bat DNA too. It sounds crazy talking about it out loud, but the movie was really good. I do recommend it.
Sure.
So anyway, that's what happened there. What if this happens with the woolly mammoth?
I mean, it sounded like you were citing specific traits of specific animals.
Yes.
Okay. Well, so should we try to figure out like to do your biggest nightmare of animal that could be created and try to figure out what animals would need to go into that?
Well, I mean, I wasn't even thinking that deeply into it as far as like it being exactly the same. I was more like, look how horribly wrong something like this can go. Like messing with nature too much. I guess that's what I was getting at. Messing with nature too much can go wrong because we have proven a lot that we as a species don't think things far enough through and globally and like entirely through, like for how it could affect everything and everyone and every outcome.
It's true.
We like see a goal and we're like, well, this is what we want. Right.
We're not very good at risk assessment when we're driven by desire, it seems. That's an interesting point. I feel like I have been working hard to be able to accept desire and recognizing and honoring my own desire. So that's a little bit of a rabbit trail, but in a society where we would be focusing almost entirely on the most good for the most people, there would have to be
too,
and other species. Yes, that's true.
We should think about everything, the planet, not just for us to be able to live in it, but like we're not the only ones here, and it's not okay for us to damage it for our descendants, but also for every other species
that's true
are here.
I guess to me, I guess I mostly think of that in terms of those species would be better off to exist in, because then it would be a more complete biome that I get to live in too.
For the woolly mammoths?
No, like in general,
Okay.
if humans are managing a planet of animals and doing okay, because we spiraled off of we spiraled off of the idea of oh shit, I'm gonna lose it now. We spiraled off of the idea. What were we talking about just a minute ago?
The woolly
I thought-
mammoth.
yeah, I think
Backtrack.
whatever rabbit trail I went off of, I lost, so that's fine.
I think that we should also consider, this is another thing that I wonder how much they really thought it through. What they might have, I don't know, but just like whenever a species gets taken out of the rotational, like just getting removed from that ecosystem for that long, because it's been what, 10,000 years or something like that. Other species have evolved separate, like without it. So
True.
it's going to disrupt things. It's just going to, like, there's no way that there's not going to be something that, like, things that go sideways. There's no way that they could have thought I don't know. I find it hard to believe that they would have been able to think everything through and then still be willing to do this. That's why I think that it's possible that they did it, or came up with the idea and everything and then found a way to incorporate it.
True.
And also, we're probably going to be having people out here having woolly mammoth pets.
I mean, that's where it gets gross, right? That's where the everyone needs to have possess things gets in our way. Mm-hmm.
Their trunks or whatever, their fur probably is going to be on the black market. Like, I mean,
why are humans so gross? Why do they still want body parts of things? Ew.
And they have, this is definitely a tangent too, ish. Ivory, vegan ivory, or I don't know if it's called vegan ivory, but it's like it's made from like a certain tree trunk that can be like pressed into looking exactly like ivory.
Oh, interesting.
So, also, we don't need ivory in anything, but like if you just like really love the look of it, there's other options.
Honestly, I don't know what the whole deal was with ivory. It had to be because of the elephants. I guess
it was rare and hard to get and expensive, and it was like a status thing, I think. Like diamonds. Because it is just a rock.
I feel like, do you think that was like Pisces energy? Right? Because we're leaving the age of Pisces.
Maybe.
I'd like to think it's leaving. It's gross.
I mean, Pisces don't always think things through, so maybe this whole thing, this what I'm calling unnatural de-extinction, is gonna turn. I'm telling you, we're gonna end up having to bring back predators for them because they're gonna get out of control, and then the saber-toothed tiger or whatever is gonna take over, like start killing polar bears and whatnot.
I mean,
and then
we have guns though.
To kill them?
I mean, yeah, if it was like movies, right? That's what Jurassic Park taught us. Like, hey, we did the best we could to contain them, but fuck, now we just got to shoot them. And thank God we're on an island because now we can just abandon them and hope they die out. See, it was contained.
Yeah, Jurassic Park is another movie that's on the list of movies that I have as warnings for why we should not allow this. Because they fucked around and found out.
It's why we shouldn't bring back the mega dinosaurs. For our fun and pleasure, which that one was directly for fun, pleasure, and profit. So let's see, like, is the whole thing a warning or are those the warnings? See, let's go into this. Because we have things to gain if it really if it really maintains the tundra. And there's like a beautiful park that we get to like see parts of the past and present of you know, these creatures that walked the planet, whether we were able to maintain them or whether, you know, we caused them to go extinct, or past catastrophes on planet Earth caused them to go extinct. Like, I don't know. If we have parks of that and we're like maintaining everything clean and healthy for all of them and for all of us, I don't have a problem with it, because it would be better than us filling every river and you know, every waterway and every, or with pollution and tearing down every forest. You know, like if they're going to build meadows full of mammoths to keep the planet healthy, that sounds pretty awesome to me. And I know I am much too much of an optimist about the future sometimes, but the opposite sucks and doesn't feel good.
It does. I can attest to that.
So, and I don't, the thing is, I don't feel like I'm bluffing myself, because like this is a real thing that's happening. And I don't know, I guess I don't know how to feel all the way about it, since it is a money-making thing right now. But if everyone's on the up and up and really wants to like sustain their families and their employees' families with income, and that's their reason for making a buck, I'm still not even sure from my notes. Oh yeah, okay, I remember. Conflict in the bedroom for a reason. Okay. I've never really directly talked about that, but it really does. It's a double entendre, right? Of weed and speaking about things bluntly. Anyway, I digress. Okay, so, right. If this company, these people who are going to all this fucking trouble to bring back the mammoth, have, you know, entirely like good for the planet reasons, and oh, by the way, in order to do this, I have to be able to fund, you know, my family's budget and all of my employees' family's budget, right? Like that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the case and it's doing this good thing for the world, I mean, like, do the best you can with the science we have, because that's how we operate. That's how we move forward, right? Like some things will take us a couple steps back because whoops, unanticipated thing. But if we're doing our best with the science, yeah, what else can we do? We learn the most when things go wrong. Unfortunate, but true. Yeah. So this is
But
why I
doesn't that
support it.
scare you?
Well, I mean, there's so many things I could be scared of. That one's so remote compared to the bus down the street. At least that's how I've convinced myself that it's okay to feel okay about it and to be excited instead of scared. Because both can exist.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It's weird though. I don't feel like we're all that used to having feelings that conflict like that. To know that it's scary and risky. And also to be like, oh my God, but imagine the possibilities.
But you know what? I think that of all the conversations we've ever had, this is the most where we're both like our races. Because
oh, interesting.
If you think about it, this whole time you're like, yeah, let's just full force, you know. And if you think about it, when you really see most people that do skydiving and swimming with sharks and all this crazy things, it's the white people that do that. Mostly where the rest of us are like, why would we swim with sharks? Like, why is that a danger we have to put ourselves in?
So interesting. I have very little experience with people who are daredevils like that. But my brother-in-law from India is the one I know of.
Really? That does things like that?
Oh, yes. Like, it is a wonder he's not dead. I mean, but he spent his childhood thinking it was really fun to play chicken with elephants in the jungle.
Oh.
So I mean, like, there's a threshold for thrill seeking there, potentially. I don't know. It's but yeah, I mean, he's the one that skydives on the regular, and when we're at the beach, just was like, oh, let's see that big rock out there, out in the water. I'm just gonna swim out there and climb the 30-foot rock. And I've been
People like that make me
around very
nervous.
soft white men, but I don't think I've like directly been around many white men who had the physical capability of some of those things, let alone the desire. So I don't know. I don't think you're wrong, like on the whole, but I can't speak to it looking like that, I guess. But it's interesting. Like, is there some like colonialism going on in me that I'm just like, heck yeah, populate that Siberian tundra with mammoths, like colonize the shit out of it. Maybe I would be willing to explore that. I mean, I'm teasing a little bit, but like, I mean, legit, maybe. I don't know.
Well, the video that you sent me of the guy talking about it, that one gave me some colonial vibes because he just kept saying, you know, we could get our woolly mammoths back, and you know, like just everything was possessive, like, you know, we could have this thing to look at or whatever. And
Did
to
you
me
mean
it's
humanity?
like, yeah, to me it's kind of like that's not they're not ours. I mean, we could argue that our dogs are ours, I guess, but even that is like that feels like wrong to even do that, you know?
Well, but see, here's that thing where I think we in our heads still think there's the wilds, right? But what they're talking about is putting these creatures that they're creating into a park. Like, it's a massive park, obviously, and it wouldn't, in all likelihood, feel like an enclosure to the critters, but a park, right? Like a contained space. Because
Would it
I
be?
think that's where
Because I
we're
thought the
at.
point was to let it loose in the whole, like to have this whole huge space of, you know, the
Well, that's a
Siberian
good point. I
tundra.
guess I don't know if there's like fences or whatever, but they're talking about it like it's a park. And when I was in India, they had wildlife parks. So I don't know if it's analogous, but they had really large areas that were wildlife areas, but they did essentially have like a perimeter to them. And I don't exactly know how that was, if it was like a wall or if it was looser than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if it's in a enclosed park, then that makes even less sense to do this. Because it's not
But I
going to be
think,
enough of a space for it to make a difference.
well, that's what I mean. That like, if we could say that the reason they're doing this is to benefit the planet, then, and they don't have, you know, the ulterior like weird black market or weird billionaires want to have pets, you know, if that can be validated that that's like not part of how this business plan is set for. I mean, like, right, what else can we do but to have them like really, to know that they're really doing their research? And investors in the company should be the ones keeping track of that, I would think, right? Because they want to know that the outcomes they're putting their money in for would happen. And so I don't know that those are perfect checks and balances, but unless it's one, you know, lone loony billionaire, you know, in all likelihood, there are more eyes on the situation and an understanding of what the goals are. But right then, it's like, we're not the ones with our money invested in it, but yet it does have an effect on us. And so we kind of don't have a say, but then I kind of just want to know too what it would be like. And I like the potential benefits they're purporting right now. So it's like, do I be suspicious of it from the little bit that I know? I mean, I guess I'm at a point of like, I would be so excited if all of that was real and we could do that and it turned out really cool and we could like make decisions in the future of animals that would also be beneficial or interesting, or I don't know. I guess I could be talked to the other direction on a lot of different things too.
Well, because then I start thinking about, like, whenever you just said that, what I started, because again, our minds are going two totally different ways with this whole thing. Because okay, so when you started talking about we start picking what animals to bring back, that to me is like, I mean, it brings to mind Hitler and eugenics,
Oh,
like picking and choosing what's desirable is how we got, well, one of the reasons we got this, everything got this bad with the environment in the first place. We started having to like mass farm and huge factory farms and all these crazy things because we like decided which ones we deemed worthy.
but the earth decides what's deemed worthy, like what can survive the gauntlet of
The earth should decide.
existing.
Humans shouldn't decide. The earth should.
But we're
That's why I
part
think
of
this
it.
is unnatural
not-
de-extinction.
I don't think we're separate from the earth. I think whatever we do is what the earth itself and the energy of the sun is doing. Okay, I just got weird.
A little bit. I don't know. I gotta say, I don't agree with this.
It's fine. I don't hold tightly to that thought.
Yeah, I don't know. I just because I see how much damage we've already done, and like we've proven that we shouldn't be trusted. Because I mean, if you really think about even like the features that we choose now, that's like commonly chosen now, don't make sense for the earth as a whole.
But then like dog breeds don't make sense either.
They don't.
Well,
Having dogs
I
live
agree
in
they
our
don't.
houses don't make sense.
But it didn't stop us from doing it and finding great benefit in having done it.
I wonder how many of those dog poo bags end up in landfills.
No, it's terrible.
I wonder how much of their dog toys are not biodegradable. Like, you know, I mean, it's not, cats, litter boxes are so bad.
But how much of our shampoos and body washes fuck shit up too?
Yeah. We cannot be trusted to do what's best for the whole. This is what I'm saying.
I mean, but we might end ourselves and take a bunch of species with us, but we're not going to end Earth.
Yeah, we're not gonna, we can't, I mean, that's not.
Or like life on it even.
Yeah, no.
I kind of don't think we can do that. Even if we lit off, I don't think they get lit off. Every one of our nukes, I think still, like we wouldn't make it.
Well, I mean, if we keep messing with the atmosphere, we can, what happened in Mars can happen here. And I mean, not in our lifetime, obviously, but if you don't take like millennia, and you know, it will take a very long time for that to happen, but it could happen. And apparently now they're saying that Venus probably also had life on it. And I don't know how true this is, mind you. This is something I heard. I was having a conversation with someone earlier today about it. But apparently it used to be like a jungle or something, and then I guess too much got trapped in there or something, and now it's just like 800 degrees and nothing can live on it, or something like that. I don't know, something like that. But they're thinking that possibly that is true.
Oof, fascinating.
Yeah.
Like
I don't know about the Venus thing, but the Mars thing, I do believe they used to have life on it, and they did what we're doing.
What if we are them?
Some people believe that to be the case. Well, I don't know that it would be humans. I think it would have been like the single cell organisms that were kind of dropped here or whatever, with, you know, with an asteroid or whatever it is, and then that has had this happen again. Maybe we are inevitable.
Right. I mean, well, we have plenty of examples, even on this one planet, of convergent evolution.
Yeah.
So, true. I mean, who's to say that convergent evolution wouldn't happen on other planets? But also, I think the tiniest difference could render different creatures.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because it's all about filling niches. There's a really cool Netflix special thing, Alien Worlds, I think it was called. And it very beautifully graphically imagined other exoplanets that we found. Exoplanets, is that the right word? Planets that are somewhat similar to ours that like could harbor life in various ways if they had adapted in various ways. And so it's super interesting. They imagined these really strange creatures, you know, if the atmosphere was methane and whatever accounted for that and found a way, and then they'd have this weird bubble and blah blah blah. It was cool. It was weird.
Wow.
Trippy. It's good and trippy.
Seems like it would be.
Yeah.
Oh my.
But I digress. But see, we're not doing that. Okay, you know what? I can't end this podcast without recognizing, like, let's talk about, you know, if we're talking about like kind of genetically hybridizing things. I mean, we've got Egyptian gods that have, you know, different animal heads, and we've got critters depicted in biblical texts and all kinds of other texts that that were, you know, body parts from all different creatures, the head of a whatever, the tail of a whatever. But like, how different is that than gene sequences of whatever and other gene sequences of whatever? I mean, it would be a very interesting way for the ancients to have described something that they saw. Just get weird again.
Well, because I don't think it got weird. I just think it got back to where you and I are just thinking totally different about this. Because to me, it's like, again, were they warning us that that would be too powerful for us to, like, you know, not even warning, but like, I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, or is it just interesting to consider that what if there was some sort of technology going on, you know, or stories of, right? Because if they were depicting these creatures as actually having these body parts, and yet we know that morphologically these hybrids probably wouldn't turn out, you know, that weirdly different with like a head of one thing and tail of another, whatever. But if they were the leftover civilization of something else that happened in the past that we don't know about, where there was greater technology and there was hybridization or something, I mean, probably not, because I guess we would still see that in the fossil records. So anyway, I'm off on a weird tangent that makes no sense potentially, but it does make me wonder when you see depictions like that and then you realize, oh, we're kind of doing that, but on a different level. Like, was there something else in the past? Were they just thinking about it? Were they like what all was depicted by their animal body part medleys and their animal heads on human bodies? I mean, there are thoughts going on underneath that.
Yeah.
Maybe not that different than the thoughts we're having about this genetic stuff. I don't know. Have we exhausted it? I don't think we're going to be like, okay, now we agree on the exact same thing, which is okay.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely wasn't my goal. I was just happy that we finally disagree on, well, I'm not happy. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it makes an interesting conversation that we're both on opposite sides. So,
yeah.
Opposite-ish.
Right.
I mean,
yeah. Well, I mean, at the very least, each of us are interested in exploring different sides of it. But isn't that the beauty of the situation? Because someone who's like me or more extreme than me would just barrel forward and be like, oh my God, let's try stuff. Right. And people who, you know, have a lot more sense around risk assessment, but maybe even more extreme than you, would be like, no, we can't ever change anything. Don't do that. That's weird. Never try anything. Right. And like, clearly both of those aren't great ideas. But when those two aspects talk to each other, I bet something gets figured out where risks can be assessed, managed, mitigated, etc., while also being laser focused on what the goals are and what can be achieved from it.
I'm having trouble keeping up.
Okay, it's recorded. Yay.
I can't tell if that was an onion or if I'm just high or what, but
I
I
don't
am
think
very
it was
high.
too multi-layered.
Okay.
I think it was a fairly straight line, but I don't know. I don't actually remember what I was talking about 2 minutes ago. So I'm also glad it was recorded. Well, I guess we've exhausted the no, we haven't exhausted this. I feel like this whole mammoth controversy could come back up for us, don't you think?
I do. Yes.
Okay. Well, so here's the good news. It was about a year ago that all the major news was hitting about it because I think it was like actually going to happen. But it takes 2 years for an elephant to gestate.
Mhm.
So once this thing is cooking, we're going to know. And we're going to know a lot more along the way, probably too. Because nature does have a way of killing off things that just like aren't going to work out. So we'll have to come back to it if we like see another volley of news about it. Hey.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm tired and stoned.
Me too.
All right.
I was
This
just
is-
about to say something and then totally forgot. That's how high I
Oh.
am right now.
Oh shit.
You just said nature has a way of taking out things that doesn't work. And I'm wondering if maybe nature's way of getting rid of humans, because we obviously don't work here. We're so bad as a species. So maybe the permafrost melting and releasing those viruses and stuff is nature's way of getting rid of us, and we should leave it alone.
Just let the planet warm and extinct us.
Maybe.
I think there's a few billion people that disagree with that notion, but that's our way.
Yeah.
We are a bit driven to continue living at the very least.
Yeah.
I mean, but yeah, you could do that. I don't know. I came across the term optimistic nihilism, and I think I might be that. Like nothing matters, but like let's have fun.
Okay.
I don't. That sounds more cynical and less responsible than how I actually feel. So I'll have to revisit that. But anyway, now that I've rambled, I can actually sign off. Unless did you have one more thought?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, this is Blend the Bedroom signing off. Woolly mammoths will be watching you.